Why does Robert Redford's smoldering passion fail to save Netherwood, Dormer's small town, wealth in his property is condemned? 1966. A tragic story of lost innocence and desire that leave you wondering if some Hollywood classic and better than left as man. Director, genre, and main cast. This property is condemned. 1966 is a romantic drama set during the Great Depression, directed by Sydney Pollack, who is then early in a career that would later include classes like The View We Were and Out of Africa. The film starred two of the area's most magnetic leads, Natalie as the dreamy, tragic Alva and Robert Redford as the handsome, guarded railroad official Owen Legate. Supporting cast members include a notably mentioning Joel Bronson and Kate Reid. Notable crew and source material. A particularly notable name among the crew is a young Ford Coppola, who is credited as one of the screenwriters alongside Fred Co and Edith Summer. The film is an adaptation of a 1946 one-act play of the same name by legendary Southern Gothic playwright Simeon Wells. The screenwriter chose the short two-character play and directly explained it into a full-length feature, editing the New Orleans score and framing it with a new character, Olive's younger sister Lily. Pre-release expectations. The film was expected to be a major British picture, largely due its sources material from Tennessee Williams, whose play consistently translates into high-profile dramatic cinema such as A Streetcar Named Desire and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. The casting of the enormously popular Natalie, who is actively seeking serious dramatic roles, was a significant draw, as was the returning award and rising star Robert Redford following their previous collaboration in Inside Daisy Clover 1965. Hype and underlying issues. The Hollywood buzz was central on the movie's attempt to replicate the intense, passion melodrama typical Williams' successful screen adaptation. However, production was predictably predictable with present script issue due to difficult expectations of one act play. They struggled to maintain the source material integrity while giving the movie console scope, unlimitedly lead of conflicting report and whisper of an uneven final product even before it reached theaters. The film began with a look at the deteriorated, boarded-up boarding house in a Depression-era Mississippi town of Bronson. A young girl named Alva Starr acts as the narrator, recounting the tragic story of her older sister Alva. Alva, a beautiful and petite town filled live a tragic existence in the rundown house run by her opportunistic mother, Hazel. She dreamed only of executing her dismal life and the persistent, undesirable attention of the older man who frequent the play. The status quo is shattered by the arrival of Owen Legate, a handsome stranger from the railroad. Owen is in the town to carry out an unpopular task, downsizing the local railroad, the town's primary employer. Alva and Owen are immediately drawn to each other, sparking a passionate yet complicated relationship. Their burgeoning romance is turned by Alva's past, her mother screams, and the hostile reaction of the desperate town people, forcing Alva to choose between a lawless marriage and a skillfully uncertain future with Owen is New Orleans. A story and pacing. The film's plots, torn down from a short 10-scene William play, struggle under the weight of a future-length expansion. The central narrative of Alva Starr's tragic longing for escape from her short, Mississippi life is undeniably emotionally impelling, but the logic flatter than the story is forced to create melodrama around the simple premise. Always motivation often feel erotic, moving from varied drama of seeming clearly with the little construction tissue, making the emotional core feel manipulation rather than genuinely earned. The narrative structure framed by the youngest sister Lily adds an air of romantic tragedy but unlimitedly made the main story feel like a lengthy unnecessary flashback. The pacing is noticeably uneven. The first half, set in a disciplined boarding house in thought and gripping, filled by the uncomfortable tension between Alva, Owen, and Alva's mother. This section successfully creates a claustrophobic, charged atmosphere that keeps the viewers hooked. However, the move of New Orleans in a second act introduces a sudden journey shift in town. The story drags here, trading gritty drama for idealized romantic, slowing the movement of a crow as the film glare the inevitable tragic confliction. This sexual inconstantly prevent the movie from sustaining a compelling rhythm throughout. The performances and characters. Natalie delivered the most memorable and captivating performances as Alva Starr. She perfectly embodies the conditions of the Southern Belle, a figure of vibrant beauty and raw, desperate vulnerability. Her Golden Globe-nominated ward manager to inject sympathy into a character who is often frustratingly passive of a contradictory on the page. She shall always dream of a New Orleans as a genuine, almost forced need for escape, making her eventual despair deeply palpable. Robert Redford as Owen Legate provide a grounded, cold counterpoint toward his tonic. While his character is less flashy, Redford's quiet intensity and simmering resentment make Owen a believable man simply doing a difficult job rather than a typical Hollywood hero. This supporting casting is stellar, particularly Kate Reid as a mountain mother. Hazel West's performances perfectly capture the predatory, controlling nature of William's most iconic metro fingers. The character dynamic are highly effective. The conflict between the two-flesh mother and the despaired daughter is the most devout and believable relationship in the film. See visual and cinematography. The film benefits immensely from the cinematography of the legendary James Wong Howe. He creates a visual atmosphere that perfectly contrasts the theme of despair and hope. The color palette of Miss Happy Town is obscurity, dusty, humid, and muted, dominated by earth tone and shadows to emphasize the providing the perfection of a depiction setting. This obsessive look is immediately striking, contributing heavily to the film's initial drama. The most standout visual element in the contrast between the dark, crumped boarding house and the bright, almost industrial scenes in New Orleans. How frequently used striking close-up to capture the intense emotional turmoil, particularly on Redford. The opening shots of the younger Will on the train track dressing is heart-racing infinity, with the conventional site in the background is a visually including and symbolic moment that effectively set the tone for the inter-tragic story. D. Story and music. The musical score by Conyan Hopkins is effective throughout the time. It leans too heavily into melodrama. The music frequently swells of underlying emotional beats, particularly during the romantic sequence between Alva and Owen, which sometimes feel overdone and less stable than the story needed. However, this score successfully evokes a sense of jazz in certain atmosphere that provides an overall signature for the film setting and mood. The overall sound design is excellent at creating the gently realism of a provide. The constant intrusive sound of the railroad whistle, shifting cars, and streams function as the perversion symbol of the town's economic dependency and the very thing Owen is there of destroy. Furthermore, the corrected theme and creator of the boarding house part effectively conveys the depart, the soul's lifestyle. Ova is typing to this attention to environmental sound deeply contributed to the oppressive atmosphere of the first act. Theme and emotional impact. The core theme are pure theme, William lost innocence, the tragedy of unfulfilled drama, and the destructive nature of possessive family love. Always desperate longing for New Orleans is not just a desire for a city, but a yearning for a glamorous, free identity she can never attain. An impassable drama corrupted by the reality of her past. The film also touched on theme of class and economic despair during the Great Depression, highlighting how providently fault moral compromise and limit personal choice. Despite the structural flaw as the little half, the film's emotional impact is surprisingly lingering and devastating. The tragedy is not just always past, but the realizations of how deeply constrained her life was by her mother and her environment. The final sense narrative by Willie successfully segments the scenes of doom and loss potential, leaving the viewer with a profound sadness for a young woman who was condemned by the government, not but by her own circumstances. F. Unique observation. One of the most frustrating production facts is the process of a young, for instance, found complex as one of the credited screenwriters. This film was a challenging early studio assignment for Coppola, how, along with over a dozen other writers, struggled to flesh out Williams' one-act play into a conceived feature film script. The struggle with the material is evident in the film finish, uneven structure, a testament to the fact that even great talent can be hindered by a difficult adaptation process. The film is often compared to other 1960s Williams adaptations like Sweet Bird of Young 1962, sharing the common DNA of dominant romance and certain descendants. However, the pairing of Ward and Redford, there is a distinct chemistry that element is above standard melodrama, even if the story does not always noting them. My personal reaction to the film was one of frustrations. The acting is phenomenal, but the film keeps tripping over itself with unnecessary plot contrivances. I wish the plot had focused entirely on the construct first act, letting the tension simply explode rather than flowing the characters on an extended petrified romantic detour. Based on its powerful performances and compelling atmosphere, the final verdict of his property is condemned. 1966 is the qualified must-watch. While the film struggles structurally, the sheer talent on the screen and the plot and emotional core ensure it remains a valuable piece of classic cinema. We rate it 7 out of 10 stars. In this movie, is your golden frame or not? Show your verdict and favorite scenes in a comment below. For your next watch, check out another Robert Redford and Natalie Wood The Way We Were 1973 for a completely different but equally impactful romantic drama. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive reviews. Please subscribe the Movie Master 92.